Right, what have we got here? Well, it's a Nitecore, and I'm a big fan of the Nitecores because they're pretty rock solid. So it's a Nitecore headlamp this time, and if you remember I did a review of the skilhunt HO3, I think it was called, which I have here without the headband, and I was highly impressed with this. This had everything. I mean, the only things I didn't like about it were basically a little bit of battery rattle, but I showed you how to fix that in the end of the video. So it'll be interesting to see what Nitecore have come up with. Now, Nitecore do a load of headlamps. This is the higher end of the scale, so it has more features and more output. But I'm interested to see what they come up with because it has a dual LED system, in fact triple really, and a small blue indicator. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. So this is the Nitecore HC65 headlamp, and it is running, if I remember rightly, running on the Cree X-L2U2 emitter, so not the usual emitters that you normally get, but it's able to reach out because it uses a smooth reflector. It has an auxiliary red light, which Jimmy Mac's going to love that because he's a big fan of red lights, and waterproof to 2 meters, impact 1.5, even though on the website it says 1 meter, so there's a bit of confusion over that, but I'll run them off an email and see what comes back. But I'm interested to see what they come up with, and you get a 5-year warranty, which is nice to see. So let's go through some of the specs. It's an 18650. Now I have an 18650 here in the skilhunt. So 18650 is just the form factor of the battery, and they're the big whopper ones. I happen to use the Samsung 30Qs, but for this one it comes with a battery, which is actually a higher capacity than this. This gives you about 3000 milliamp hours. I think this gives you 3400 with the battery that you get in there. So what I'm going to do is I'll put the battery back in here, if I can put it the right way around, and we'll get on with this, and I'll tell you a bit more about it. Now, like I say, it's got 3 LEDs, so it's quite interesting why they've chosen that, and it gives you a lot more for your money. So let's see what's in here. Let's see what we get. So right, box is empty, pop it off to one side. So that must be, yeah, that's the main unit there. Beautiful, not too heavy actually. I'm presuming they've done an Olight on this and used a really thin shell, but we'll see. So I'll put that to one side. What else do you get? So there's your headband. Now the headband, it's a 3-point headband. In other words, if you look at this, so it goes through here and goes around the back of the head, but it also has a point here where it's going to go over the top of your head. Some people don't like that, but I find the heavier the headlamp is, the more the necessity is for an overhead strap, because it tends to droop, and you don't want droopage, as we all know in life. So 3-point there. I'm not going to bore you with putting that together. You know, this is how you get your granny's knicker elastic and put it together. You don't want to see that, but I will show you later on. So put that to one side. There's a couple of spare O-rings. Now, interestingly enough, there's also some, I suppose you could call it a gasket seal. It depends on what you want to call it. These are your O-rings, these 2 black things here, and they're spares. Now they go between the machine parts left and right here because they've been milled and drilled, so you can screw them together. But in order to retain water repellency, in fact waterproofness on this one, you need to have that in place. So it's nice to see spare ones, but I'll take it to bits and show you that. Now this here, see this shape here? This goes if you want to dismantle this bit, which I wouldn't recommend. So if you want to take this off for whatever reason, to maybe mod it or whatever, that can be done. You release these, and I presume underneath you need some form of gasket, which is included. So nice to see that. Well done, Nitecore. So pop that to one side. What else have we got here? Now it looks like, so you get a charging cable, and it's a micro USB. I wish they'd start putting in Type-C. I mean, my phone takes Type-C. One of my Anchor chargers is a Type-C. The GoPro's a Type-C. Come on, can we not start using Type-C? There's probably a cost implication, but I prefer Type-C. You can put more juice through them, but okay, you get that. So put that to one side. And then what's this? A little storybook from Nitecore. Ah, right, okay, data purchase. Okay, so that's so you can sign your life away, no thanks. And here's the hefty, get that out of the way. This looks like the hefty manual. So I'm going to memorize this. Ooh, yes, that's all memorized. Wonderful. Okay, that's understood. Now it is quite a complicated one because of the multiple emitters, but I'll go through them. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. So pump that over to one side. So let's move over to the main unit here. So what you have is you have a standard LED and a smooth reflector, which I'll go over. You also have a high CRI light. Now, high CRI. CRI just stands for Color Rendering Index. What they're essentially, I'm going to make this simple without blathering on. So in simple terms, this is going to reproduce colors in the environment less effective than a high CRI LED. High CRI gives you good color reproduction. It's better able to show color variations for the human eye and things like that. It's more natural light. However, the output tends to suffer because of that. And sometimes you can get a green tint and things like that, which depends on the manufacturer and all sorts of things, but I want to keep this simple. So there's your high CRI, sorry. Your emitter is in there. Now it's a smooth reflector, so I'm going to go over reflectors because it's bare, you know, I like to go over these things because I want people to know what they're buying. So if you imagine this is a normal flashlight, you'd have your LED emitter there and light is transmitted in this direction. Now a smooth reflector, all a smooth reflector does is it collects light, bounces it around and focuses it in a manner that the manufacturer wants. And then you have spill light which comes out from the LED and what have you. So when you fire it at a wall with a smooth reflector, you tend to get this. This is an oversimplification, but you get your spot, which is what the reflector is trying to do, and then your spill is just the extra light that's coming from the LED. Now I'll show you that. So if I turn this on, turn it down a little bit so it's a bit more sensible. So can you see what's happening here? So from here to here you have spill, okay, and this is your spot. Now you see the problem with spots is they tend to obscure detail. I can't see this lettering here at all, even though I've got HDR on this camera, I still can't see it. So you've got to pull way back to get it. Now one way of getting around that is to use an orange peel reflector. So for example, this is the S2 Plus, I think, yes, Convoy S2 Plus. This has an orange peel reflector. So instead of a smooth reflector like we have here, it has bumps in it. Now because it has bumps, you get a transition zone. So it changes the way that the transition between the spot and spill hits. So you still get spill and spot, but there's a transition zone. So it's less apparent. In other words, if I show you side by side, turn that down a bit, right. Okay, so can you see, yeah, there's a spot, but it's not obscuring detail as much, and there's a transition. It's less abrupt. So if we compare that, see the difference? There's an obvious spot there, where it's not so obvious with this. I personally like an orange peel reflector because you're getting the best of both worlds. However, with an orange peel reflector, you're not going to get as much throw. But I'm willing to accept that. And for a headlamp, it's a strange decision to go with a smooth reflector. At first, when you first think about it, you think, well, why would you want a smooth reflector? The whole point of a headlamp is you're going for a pee when you're camping, or you're cooking, or you're working close up. It's on your head. Why would you want something that can reach out? Well, they're able to do that because they've got this TIR lens. So what's a TIR lens? Well, a TIR lens is the far end of the spectrum. So this is giving you maximum throw. This is like the in-between. And then a TIR lens, you have your LED, and then there's like some people call it reflector, I'll call it a lens because it's a solid medium, there's no space. All the light is transmitted through the medium and comes out in a uniform fashion as dictated by the design of the TIR lens. So for example, the skilhunt uses a TIR lens. Now watch this. So even at very high levels, you can't really see a spot, can you? Now, it's so uniform when it comes out. You've got to be real close to get a spot that obscures detail. Almost nearly, look, I'm nearly touching the surface there. So the advantage of a TIR lens is the fact that you get a very uniform light. However, because it's at the far end of the spectrum from a throw, this is useless. If you saw deer in the background and quickly turn that on, you're not really going to see much of the deer. You can't reach out to further distances. So excellent for close-up, whereas a smooth reflector is brilliant for throwing the light. So really what Nitecore have done here is quite sensible. At first glance you think, why did they not just go with an orange peel reflector and get rid of this? Well, they've given you both options. You can reach out with this and you can still use this. So nice to see. When I first saw it, I thought, why would you put a smooth reflector on? But I understand why they've done that. So it's a nice piece as well. You can rotate it. They're doing well. I've gone over the reflectors there, and I'm going to go through some of the features here. So I'm going to take it slightly to bits. So you've got, it's one button function, and obviously they're presuming you're right-handed, so when that's on your head, there's your button. Now under here is a charging port. So it's nice to see that the built-in charging, even though this isn't a large unit, so nice to see. So if you take this apart, there it is there, you see. So you've got the symbol for the USB connector, and there's your USB connector. So you just plug it in with your battery in, and it's got an intelligent charging circuit. So nice to see that. Sometimes with a lot of flashlights, especially the lower priced ones, when you add features like USB charging, the size increases and so does the weight, but this is pretty light. Even with this connector on here, very light. It's almost like an OLED. The pieces feel very flimsy and thin, but I trust Nitecore. And this end is where the battery is, so I'll show you what battery comes with. So you can hear the sort of the tinny tones when that's put together, because it's very, very thin. But you need thin for a headlamp, so that's fair enough. And there's your spring. Not particularly heavy duty, but okay, you want it light, fair enough. And there's the battery. Now look at the difference between that and the skilhunt. Look at the battery. See, this has battery wobble. Listen, I hate that, and you don't want that, especially I've been out running with headlamps, and it's annoying. You know, you're running along, you sound like a one-man band. Clang, clang, bang, clatter, and you don't want that. So you see the distance there, that's not a very good tolerance, is it? Even though I love the skilhunt if I'm not running, or you can fix it by putting a piece of cord in. Okay, so we'll put that to one side, but look at the difference here. Nitecore, well done. Look, no battery rattle. Virtually no battery rattle, I would say. So what do you get here? Let's have a look. So with this unit, you get the Nitecore. Now it's a 3,400 milliamp hour battery, which is excellent. Lithium ion, and it's a protected cell, so you've got the top here, so you can't say better than that. You know, well done. Thank you for putting in a battery, not like OLED where the cheeky people forget which flashlight it was, and they put in two non-rechargeable, two CR123s, and come on. Thanks Nitecore, you've done a good job there. So we'll get that in, and you can see down there, yeah, that looks clean and clear. It's interesting how it's thicker at the front. You see the way this is machined. Isn't that interesting? I suppose more damage is going to come from the front than the back, so that's quite intelligent. Okay, so we'll get the battery in. Now when you first put this in, it has a battery check feature, so I shall show you that. So you screw this in. Now watch here for a little light, blue light. So screw this in, bang, and then watch. 1, 2, 3, 4 volts. So it's telling you how much of your battery percentage is left, really, so as a voltage rather than a percentage. So nice to see, nice battery check. That takes me on to another basic feature. You've got a locator beacon, so if you just press that lightly, see the flash there? You can leave that on. That's handy if you're camping. I would do that, put that to one side in the tent, for example. Then in the middle of the night, when there literally isn't any light, you can find it quite easily by going to that, and that's not going to drain the battery, so we'll turn that off. There you go. So we'll go through the other features. So the main lamp, it's one button. So the main lamp, you've got multiple features. So we'll go through them all. So half a press takes you to ultra low, which is 11 lumens. I would have preferred a lower setting, because generally you want like sub lumen, as in half a lumen or 1 lumen for not ruining night vision, but really you don't need that because there's a red light function, so I'll forgive them that. But I generally prefer 1 to half a lumen, so it doesn't ruin night vision. But that's pretty good. That's very basic level there. So you get 11 lumens, but you get 800 hours out of that, so that's pretty impressive on the battery that they give you anyway. You're going to get less with a 3000 milliamp or 2500, so pretty good. And then the next level, so half a press takes you to low. That's still pretty good, 80 lumens, nice level. If that's on your head, you can get basic stuff done around camp. You're not going to reach out very far with that though. That's 80 lumens, you get about 16 hours out of that. And then half press again, takes you to medium, 280 lumens, that's beautiful. So I'm getting quite a lot of light spill back here, but that's great. And also if you look at the angle here, you're getting about 100 degrees spill, which is exactly what you want with a headlamp. You want maximum spill. It's not, yes, you want some throw, but it's not about that. You want to see your peripheral vision is important, especially when you're night running and things like that. You must have peripheral vision. It's a big help. So nice to see that angle there. And then the next one is high, so that's 550. So the last one was 280 lumens at 4 hours 45, so about 4 hours 45 minutes. This is 550 lumens. You get about 2.5 hours to 2 hours 45 minutes, which is great. Then the next one takes you right up to turbo. Now that's 1,000 you get 1000 lumens for an hour. However, there will be step down. Now, unlike some other manufacturers, it's not a timed step down. I know Olight like a timed step down, but this is a heat step down. So it depends on the ambient temperature. So if you're in a cold environment, it's going to step down later. If you're in a red hot desert, it's going to step down at a different rate. Now, a step down is just when this gets too hot. I'll just feel that it's not particularly hot because this is quite a solid metal construction. When that gets too hot, the circuit dictates that it's going to start damaging components, so it drops the output. So you're only going to get 1000 lumens as much as it can cope. So it's probably going to be about 2-3 minutes, depending on ambient temperature. As I say, it's pumping out a lot of heat, but it's not retaining a lot of heat, which is excellent, and I like to see that. And quite cleverly, there's a gap so it doesn't boil your head. You know, you don't get boiled head syndrome. So that's great. Nice to see. It's still not heating up too much, even though there's no apparent heat sinks. It's just solid metal and it's doing its job, so we'll turn that off. So there are your different modes. Now within the main modes, if you turn that back on, if I press that and hold, you get your other modes. I'm going to pull that down because some people complain about strobe, so we'll put it through the fingers there. Okay, so you get strobe, and then you also get another mode which is SOS, so you can see it flashing out, blip, 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 3 slow, and then you get 3 fast. So that's SOS, and then you have a beacon mode, so another press, it just gives a flash every now and then. Now that's handy if you're camping or you're doing midnight ops and things like that. You need to leave a beacon for people to find a specific location or a marker. So excellent. So a lot of modes already, but there's more. So if we want to get to the other modes, you hold down the button all the way in. There you go, there's your red light mode. Now red light mode comes out at about 11 lumens, so that sounds quite a lot. I would prefer a lower setting, but it's coming through the TIR, so it's spreading out, so it's not necessarily an issue. And if that's up at head height, that's perfect to allow you to do things. And red light can tend to be less energetic. In other words, there's less hitting the eye, so you can get away with higher levels without losing night vision. And all night vision is when you become accustomed to the night. And if a bright light gets in your face, it can destroy that. And then what happens is, it takes me anyway about 10 to 15 minutes to get back my night vision and be accustomed with just working with moonlight and things like that. So it's nice to have this feature, and Jimmy Mac, like I say, is going to love this. He loves a red light, and I don't mean that in a rude way like the red light district. I mean as in a functional manner. And most armed forces use this. I've been reading a few reports on submarines where they use red lights and stuff, and there's for and against arguments, but it depends what you're looking at and whether you go from a bright zone into a dark zone, whether you need to see detail, whether it's coloured and all sorts of things. But in general, a red light is great for low light conditions where you don't want to ruin your vision. So there's also a secondary mode for this. So if you half press, you can turn that into a red light beacon. So that's quite interesting. I don't know when I would use that. I would just use the normal beacon, but okay, it's there. And then turn that off. Okay, half press takes you to they're calling it an auxiliary light. So half press, there's your auxiliary light. Now I will mention, to my eyes, unfortunately, there's a green tint. You won't see that through this camera because I have HDR on. I have to have HDR on because I am dealing with lights here in very bright sections and dark sections. So you may not see that, but trust me, to my eyes, there's an unfortunate green tint. However, it wouldn't bother me, and especially if I was outside. But just bear that in mind. A lot of high CRI and the Nitecore and things like that, they tend to have a green tint, I find. But I don't want to say that I'm right and other people are wrong, because everyone's eyes are different, and everyone's wants and needs are different. I prefer a more neutral tint, whereas other people don't. Whereas I should like this because it's a more neutral light. But I would just consider that a low-level auxiliary. Now, I think this comes out at about 26 lumens, I think, off the top of my head. I would have to go back and check, but I think you get 26 lumens out of this. There's no secondary mode, but you get 25 hours out of this, whereas the red light, if you hold that down, the red light is giving you about 11 lumens, you get about 20 hours, and then obviously the flash mode, you're getting something about 32, 35 hours, depending. So you've got a lot of options here. So we've been through all of those settings, we've been through all the bits and pieces. It's got built-in charging. The website says 1 meter drop rating, which I find strange, whereas the box says 1.5. I presume 1.5 is the true sum because it was on the box. which is fair enough. You're hopefully not going to have this flying off your head. So I really like this. I'm going to give this a mark out of 10, and then I'm going to say why. So my mark out of 10 is going to be 9 out of 10. Now, why is it so high? Yes, this is expensive, but it's giving you everything. It doesn't have an orange peel reflector, but it's got the far end of each spectrum. You've got throw here with a brilliant design where it's wide for peripheral vision. Perfect. It's rock solid. It doesn't heat up too much. The run times are fantastic. You're getting a large capacity, decent battery. It's got voltage check. Really, it's got everything you need apart from a lockout. But if you want to lock it out, just unscrew that slightly. There you go. Now it's locked out. It won't work. And then, so do you really need a lockout? Probably not. So that's the one feature which they could maybe add a lockout, but you can do it yourself manually. It's not the end of the world. I really like this, and I think that this should be commended for doing such a good job. I highly rated the H03 by Skilhunt. This has every feature, all millions of sub-lumen modes, sub-modes, everything. However, this just pips it because you've got everything. You've got red light, you've got red light beacon, you've got your CRI light, you've auxiliary, you've got your main beam. It literally has everything, and it's simple. It doesn't come out of the only problem is it doesn't come out of this, whereas the skilhunt would, and you could clip it onto things and onto your pockets and things like that. But that doesn't really matter because this is so capable and it has a good spill. So I'm going to give that 9 out of 10, and I'm going to go outside and show you what it looks like. And I may do some comparison shots because it's interesting to see what they look like against walls and things like that. So we'll go out and we'll have a look at it. So 9 out of 10, well done Nitecore. I think you've done an absolutely fantastic job. Can't really think of much more to add other than a lockout, but you can do it yourself. So well done. I just wish the price was a bit lower.